The leaders of the Jewish people often like to try to create dilemmas for Jesus. Dilemma is a problem that seems to only have two solutions, and you don't like either one of them. So think of, for example, when they asked Jesus about if it was right to pay their taxes. Okay, so that's a tough situation. That's a tough question for Jesus to answer, because if he says, yes, you have to pay your taxes, then all the people who hate their taxes are going to reject Jesus. They hate the fact that they're under the thumb of Rome, so they resent the government. So he's going to kind of lose some credibility with his audience. But if he says they don't have to pay their taxes, then he's going to get in trouble with Rome for telling people not to pay their taxes. And so it was kind of a tough question. Of course, he manages to get out of the dilemma by telling them to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs to God. Today's situation with this woman who's apparently caught in adultery is a similar kind of a dilemma. So the scribes and Pharisees bring this woman. I say apparently brought in adultery because according to the law, it's both the woman and the man who are supposed to be in trouble here. But they're only bringing forward the woman who is apparently in the very act of committing adultery. I don't know where this man happens to be, so there's some theory here that she might have been even hired by the scribes and the Pharisees to just be an actress in the situation. Just, we'll get you through this. We're just trying to catch Jesus in his words. So it may not even be real that this woman was doing anything sinful in that regard. So they create the situation. They bring her before Jesus. And they ask, Moses commanded us to stone such women. What do you say? And Jesus could say, stone the woman according to the law of Moses. Okay. Well, then he seems to be contradicting his own teachings on mercy. And, well, he's going to get in trouble with the Roman government, who are the only ones who are allowed to, give someone capital punishment. But if he says that she shouldn't be stoned, then he looks it looks like he's not very strong on sin, and it looks like he is contradicting the law of Moses, which he says that he's come to fulfill. So he's kind of in a tough spot, I guess you could say. But again, they can't outsmart God. So Jesus is smarter than them. Jesus finds a way through this. He bends down, he starts writing in the ground, and I know that almost every preacher who's ever preached has probably tried to say something about what Jesus was writing there. The honest answer is we have no idea what Jesus was writing in the sand, and there's some fun theories about maybe what he was writing there, but I just think it's interesting that John, who wrote this, has no idea what Jesus was writing in sand, but he put it in there anyway, which should just be a testimony to us that this is real. Like, John's including details that he didn't even understand what was happening here. He's just like, yep, Jesus bent down and wrote something in the sand. Don't know why. He's not explaining why. It's just a sign to us that John is a real eyewitness of what's happening here if he's going to include details like that. Eventually, Jesus says, let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Okay, so now he's putting a dilemma on them because they clearly think that they are without sin. And so if they throw the stone because they think they're without sin, they're going to get in trouble with Rome because only Rome is allowed to give someone capital punishment. But if they don't throw the stone, then they're acknowledging that they have sins. And so they just, starting with the wise ones, the older ones, they walk away first while the young guys are still trying to figure out if they can outsmart Jesus, and they can't. I love the tenderness, though, of this moment when Jesus does talk to the woman. Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore. He does two things here. He doesn't just say, I don't condemn you, as if to say, like, her sins are not that big of a deal. Her sins are a big deal. Whether she committed adultery or whether she cooperated with these guys to try to catch Jesus in his words, either way, she's committed sin in being a part of this situation. So he's not just saying, I don't condemn you. At the same time, he's also saying, go and sin no more. He holds together those two things. And I think sometimes we have an inclination to do one or the other. We're either going to tell people, I don't judge anybody. No, I'm not going to condemn anybody's sin. There is truth in that. There's goodness in that. But we also have to do the other thing that Jesus does, which is remind people they have to stop sinning. So there's the person who's going to be inclined to just treat every sin like it's not a big deal. And then there's going to be the person who's inclined to treat every sin like it's a gigantic deal, and there's no such thing as mercy. As Christians, we got to hold the two together. We got to speak the truth and call people to holiness, while at the same time show great mercy. Jesus has a high bar when he calls us to holiness, and he also has a high bar when he shows us mercy. And we as Christians have to be experts at both of those things. In a way, you could say, every time we've gone to confession, Jesus says those words to us. I know I do not condemn you, and go and sin no more. The Lord has loved us like this over and over and over again. And if we've received his mercy, then we should be able to do the same for others. When we see other people in sin, when we need to correct other people in their sin, we don't shame them, we don't hate them, we don't reject them, we don't gossip about them. We show them a whole lot of mercy, and we call them to the truth that they should no longer sin. So today we pray that we would have a heart like Jesus that calls people to holiness, but also shows them great mercy.